House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she will hold a vote to formally set the guidelines of the impeachment proceedings. It's not a legal requirement, but it will set some rules. For example, they want to make withholding witnesses' testimony evidence of obstruction of justice.
Today's impeachment inquiry continued behind closed doors, with President Trump's former deputy national security advisor refusing to testify. Republicans are bashing Democrats for keeping the proceedings private, although dozens of Republicans sit on the committees in charge. As Tan Trung reports, two familiar faces in Louisiana are among the most vocal.
Speaking to the International Association of Police Chiefs in Chicago today, the president compared the impeachment inquiry to the staged attack on actor Jussie Smollett earlier this year.
It's a real big scam, just like the impeachment of your president is a scam.
President Trump hasn't shied away from opportunities to defend himself since congressional Democrats launched the impeachment inquiry. He's also getting help in that department. House Minority Whip and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise has been very public about how Democrats are proceeding with the inquiry. His latest criticism is on the closed-door hearings for witnesses being called in to testify.
What are they trying to hide from the American people that they won't allow voting members of Congress to hear what's going on in that room?
Investigations are not public. When the investigation is done, there'll be public hearings. That's how it's always been done.
Of course, Republicans disagree. Another vocal defender of President Trump is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, who, along with fellow Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, joined a Senate resolution last week condemning how the inquiry is proceeding. Over the weekend, Kennedy appeared on CNN saying the Democrats have decided to give President Trump a, quote, fair and impartial firing squad, end quote. While Kennedy recently criticized the president for initially planning to hold next year's G7 summit at one of his Florida properties.
This just creates more controversy that, quite frankly, we don't need right now.
He's not moving from his position on impeachment. It's a Republican position, standing firmly behind the president. Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.